The music was loud. The lights were bright. Flowers covered the walls like a dream. I stood at the tall glass doors of the wedding hall and took a deep breath. Inside was my daughter's wedding, Clara, my little girl. The day she had talked about since she was a child. I straightened my jacket. It was clean, but simple. I did not want attention. I only wanted to sit quietly in the back, watch her smile, and know she was happy. As I stepped inside, laughter filled the room. Guests wore shiny clothes. Cameras flashed. Everyone looked important. Then Clara saw me. Her smile vanished. She turned fully toward me, her eyes sharp like knives. The music kept playing, but the room felt suddenly cold. "What is he doing here?" she shouted. Every head turned. Every eye landed on me. I lifted my hands slowly. "Clara, I just came to see you." "Stop!" she yelled. Her voice shook, but it was full of anger. "You are not invited." The words hit me harder than any slap. Whispers rushed through the crowd. "Is that her father? He looks poor. Why would he come here?" Clara walked toward me in her white dress, her face red. "I told you not to come," she said. "Today is important. You don't belong here." I felt my chest tighten. "I raised you," I said softly. "I just wanted to." She turned away from me and snapped her fingers. "Security!" 2 large security guards rushed over. People leaned forward in their seats, excited. Some smiled, some laughed. "Remove this man," Clara ordered loudly. "I don't want him ruining my wedding." The guards looked at me. I saw their eyes move over my face, my clothes, my calm hands. Then they looked at each other, and suddenly they laughed. Not loudly, not meanly, but like they knew something no one else did. Clara frowned. "Why are you laughing?" she demanded. "Throw him out!" One of the guards cleared his throat and spoke clearly so everyone could hear. "Ma'am," he said, "we can't do that." Clara stepped back. "What do you mean you can't? Do your job." The guard smiled, calm and respectful. He pointed gently toward the floor beneath our feet. "This man," he said slowly, "is the owner of this restaurant." The room froze. The music stopped. The whispers died. Every face turned pale. Clara's mouth fell open. Her eyes widened in shock. The color drained from her face as she stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. I stood there, silent, my heart heavy. I had not come as an owner. I had come as a father. The room was still frozen, but my mind drifted far away, back to a time when Clara's laugh filled our small house. I remember the day she was born. She was tiny, warm, and perfect. Her mother passed away when Clara was still young, and from that day on, it was just the 2 of us. I worked long hours, took any job I could find, and came home tired but smiling. Every night, I told her stories. Every morning, I packed her lunch. We did not have much money, but we had love. When Clara grew older, things began to change. She started caring about clothes, phones, and what her friends thought. I noticed how she stopped inviting friends home, how she asked me to drop her off far from school so no one would see my old car. Still, I said nothing. Then she met Nathan. Nathan was smooth and loud. He talked about money like it was air. He wore expensive watches and laughed at things I did not understand. When I shook his hand for the first time, he looked past me, like I was invisible. After that, Clara changed fast. She stopped calling me Dad in public. She spoke to me like I was a stranger. When I asked about her life, she said I worried too much. When I asked about her future, she said I wouldn't understand. One day, I asked about the wedding. She didn't look up from her phone. "It will be big," she said. "I'd like to come," I replied quietly. She laughed. Not kindly. "Dad," she said, "this wedding is not your kind of place." That was the day she pushed me out. What she never knew was what happened after she left. I kept working, quietly. I saved. I invested. I bought old buildings no one wanted. I fixed them with my own hands. One small place became something bigger. Then bigger still. I hired people who needed hope, not names. I never told Clara. I didn't want her respect for my money. I wanted her love for who I was. When I received the wedding invitation weeks later, my name was not on it. Still, I came. I came because I was her father. Back in the wedding hall, I saw Clara's hands shaking. Nathan whispered something harsh in her ear. Guests stared at me differently now, confused, curious, afraid. Clara finally spoke, her voice low and sharp. "This is a lie," she said. "My father owns nothing." She turned to Nathan. "Tell them." Nathan stepped forward, his face tight with anger. He pointed at me and raised his voice. "If you own this place," he said, "prove it, right now." Every eye turned to me. And that was when Mrs. Eleanor Finch, the wedding planner, slowly stepped forward from the crowd, holding a folder in her hands. The room was tense. Every guest leaned forward, waiting for the truth. Clara's face was pale, her eyes wide. Nathan's jaw was tight, and there I stood, calm, holding memories more precious than any fortune. Mrs. Eleanor Finch opened the folder slowly. Inside were the documents, contracts, and deeds for the wedding hall. Every page carried my name. Daniel Brooks, owner. She turned to Clara and spoke softly but clearly. "Miss Brooks, these papers prove that your father owns this land. The venue, everything you are standing in belongs to him." Clara's hand flew to her mouth. She could not speak. Guests murmured, some shocked, some laughing nervously. Nathan's face reddened. His confidence was cracking. I stepped forward, my voice steady. "I didn't come here to prove anything," I said. "I didn't come to show you my success. I came as your father, the man who has always loved you, even when you were embarrassed by me." The room grew quiet. No one knew how to respond. Some whispered, some just stared. Clara's shoulders shook. You never told me," she whispered finally, her voice barely audible. "I didn't tell you," I admitted, "because I wanted you to love me, not my money. All these years, I worked quietly. I invested in people who needed a chance, buildings others ignored, restaurants others didn't believe in. And yes, it made me successful. But that was never for you. You never needed my money, you needed my love." Clara's lips trembled. She turned to Nathan, whose face had now become a mask of panic. I didn't know," she said. Nathan opened his mouth, but no words came out. His hand tightened around Clara's arm. But even that grip was weak, uncertain. I looked around at the crowd. Those who had whispered, laughed, or sneered at me before now avoided eye contact. They realized that the man they thought was poor and simple had built an empire quietly, without boasting. I was not a stranger. I was the owner of everything in that room. Clara sank into a chair, covering her face with her hands. For the first time, I saw her vulnerability pure regret. She had spent years thinking she needed someone richer, flashier, more important than her father. Yet here he was, standing quietly, strong, and untouched by the pride she thought mattered. Mrs. Finch closed the folder and handed it back to me. "He is telling the truth," she said gently. I nodded, but I did not raise my voice, did not demand respect. Instead, I let the room feel the weight of reality on its own. Clara had learned her lesson without me needing to say another word. For a moment, the world outside the wedding hall seemed to disappear. There was no music, no laughter, no cameras, just a father and a daughter facing the consequences of years of misunderstanding and pride. I knew this moment would change everything. Not just for Clara, but for Nathan, for the guests, for everyone who had underestimated quiet strength. And as Clara finally looked up, her eyes full of tears, I realized that the story of my life, the life she never saw, was only just beginning to unfold before her. This was the truth she could no longer ignore. The room was thick with tension. Clara sat frozen, her hands trembling, still staring at me as if I were some stranger who had suddenly walked out of the shadows of her childhood. Nathan, usually so confident, looked small and uncomfortable. The guests shifted in their seats, whispering, pointing, and occasionally gasping. The energy of the wedding hall had changed completely in the blink of an eye. I took a deep breath and let my eyes wander over the crowd. Every face that had once judged me now revealed surprise, doubt, and curiosity. Some were silently impressed, others embarrassed for having sneered moments before. Clara's friends stared, unsure whether to comfort her or themselves. "Dad." Clara's voice cracked. She had never sounded so fragile. I don't understand." "How?" I shook my head slowly. "Clara, you don't need to understand my life to know that I have always been here for you. Every choice I made, every sacrifice, it was all for you. Nathan stepped forward, trying to regain control, but it was too late. His usual arrogance faltered. This can't be right, he said. Are you saying the whole wedding venue? Yes, I said calmly. Every corner of this place, the tables, the gardens, even the lights mine. He froze. His confident smile disappeared, replaced by disbelief. Guests began whispering louder now, their conversations carrying across the hall. Wait, he owns it? All of it? Clara never told us? Clara's face went pale. She had spent months trying to impress Nathan and his family, choosing the fanciest venue, the best decorations, the perfect dress. And now, everything she had boasted about, everything she had thought made her appear sophisticated, was in the hands of the one person she had scorned, her father. Mrs. Eleanor Finch, the wedding planner, walked forward gracefully, her calm presence demanding attention. Miss Brooks, she said, your father owns every part of this venue. It's all legally documented. She handed Clara a copy of the documents, and these are just a few. Clara took them with trembling hands. She opened the folder and scanned the pages. Her face went from pale to red, then white, then pale again. She looked like a marionette whose strings had been suddenly cut. Nathan whispered something angrily, but she ignored him. Instead, she turned to me, eyes wide, voice small. I never knew. I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only she could hear. You didn't have to know. I never wanted my success to change your love for me. I just wanted to be your father. The room was quiet now, charged with a strange electricity. Guests watched every movement. Some leaned forward, eager to see what would happen next. Some simply stared, stunned. Nathan looked around, realizing his image of wealth and control had just collapsed spectacularly. For the first time, Clara's pride collided with reality. All the effort to appear perfect, all the worries about impressing Nathan and the world, suddenly seemed meaningless. She had to face the truth. She had underestimated the quiet, patient man who had raised her. And in that moment, I could see the shift in her, the first spark of understanding, the first taste of humility, the first step toward realizing that real power is not in wealth or appearances, but in character, courage, and love. The wedding hall held its collective breath. Something had changed forever. Chatter faded, and even the servers paused mid-step, sensing the tension. Every eye was on Clara and me. The moment had arrived, not just for her, but for all of us. Clara's hands shook as she clutched the folder of documents. Her cheeks were wet with tears, but her pride made her lift her chin. She opened her mouth, trying to speak, but no words came out. Nathan's jaw tightened, his confident mask cracking with every heartbeat. Guests whispered and exchanged glances. Some were shocked, some impressed, all waiting for the next move. I stepped forward. Not as an owner, not as a man who had built a secret empire, but as a father. My voice was calm, yet carried an edge of authority. Clara, I said, you have lived thinking that appearances define a person, that wealth, power, and status matter more than honesty, loyalty, and love. Today, you learned otherwise. Her eyes widened, a mixture of fear and realization. She had always believed she was making smart choices, impressing the world, and keeping herself above me. Yet everything she had valued, the fancy wedding, Nathan's approval, the admiration of others, was meaningless if it was built on ignoring the truth. Nathan stepped forward, furious. This changes nothing. You can't just... I raised my hand. No, Nathan. Today you see the man you underestimated. You see what pride and arrogance can blind you from. Clara's lips trembled. For the first time, she was not trying to be perfect. She was seeing reality. She dropped the folder to the floor. Papers scattered like fallen leaves, and everyone leaned in to watch. She stammered. I judged you, Dad. I ignored you. I thought I knew everything, but I was wrong. The guests held their breath. Nathan looked like a storm about to explode, but even he could not deny the truth. The whispers in the room grew louder. Then I smiled slightly, not to boast, but to offer a choice. Clara, I have raised you, guided you, and loved you. Today, I can choose to let anger rule me, or I can let my heart speak. Your actions brought shame, yes, but everyone deserves a chance to see the truth and learn from it. Clara sank to her knees, finally letting herself break. The pride that had kept her from seeing me for years melted in an instant. She buried her face in her hands, sobbing. Nathan, still stunned, took a step back. Some guests shifted uncomfortably, unsure how to react, while others whispered quietly about what they had just witnessed. I walked over and placed a hand gently on her shoulder, not as the owner of this hall, not as the man who had spent years building an empire, but as her father. You can start again, I said softly. Not with money, not with appearances. Start again with honesty, with love. The intensity in the room was electric. Everyone knew that this was a turning point, not just for Clara, but for every person who had judged too quickly, who had believed the wrong things about power, status, and respect. Clara looked up, tears in her eyes, and for the first time, I saw humility, understanding, and the spark of real maturity. She nodded slowly, and the tension began to melt, not completely, but enough to start a new chapter. Nathan, humbled and uncertain, finally realized that the life he had admired, full of flash and wealth, was nothing without integrity and respect. The wedding hall, once a stage for appearances, had become a classroom for life. And in that moment, I knew that the father-daughter bond, tested by pride, embarrassment, and hidden truths, had survived. It had grown stronger, and the story of what had been lost and could now be rebuilt was just beginning. The room remained quiet, but the energy had changed. Something powerful had been revealed. And everyone knew this day would be remembered not for the wedding, but for the reckoning. Clara looked at me with tears in her eyes. "I'm so sorry, Dad," she whispered. "I was wrong. I judged you, and I forgot what really matters." I smiled gently. "It's okay, Clara. You don't have to apologize forever. What matters is that you understand now. Love and respect are worth more than any money or status." Nathan stayed quiet, humbled, realizing he had been chasing the wrong kind of success. Guests nodded, whispering to one another, some inspired, some ashamed. I took Clara's hand, feeling the warmth of a bond that had been tested, broken, and now rebuilt. The wedding hall was no longer just a place of pomp and pride. It had become a place of truth and family. Sometimes life teaches the hardest lessons in the most public ways. But even when pride blinds us, love has a way of finding its path back. And in that moment, I knew our story wasn't over. It was only beginning stronger, wiser, and full of hope. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories full of twists, suspense, and life lessons.